In this video, I'm going to go through the top 11 questions that people tend to have when they're starting out with cold exposure. So whether you've not started yet or you just got started, then this is the video for you. Now, just to give you some context, I've done a fair amount of research over the past year or so on cold exposure, and I've been doing this for just under a year. So I'm certainly no big veteran in this area. However, I was somebody that was terrible in the cold. I would not be able to breathe under even a cold shower. And the idea of me being able to now get into water that is 2 degrees, I wouldn't have believed about a year or two ago. So this makes me feel that anyone can do this. If I can do this, then you can absolutely do this, but it's got to be done in the right way. And so hopefully this video will help you get into this. These are some of the most common questions that I found. And if I don't cover a question that you have, then please do put it in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them. Now you have to remember though that this is an area that has been researched. There are people that have done research on this, but there isn't a huge amount. So some of the questions are going to be based more on experience. Some of them have some scientific backing to them. So there are some of the questions that are going to be maybe more my opinion. So I'll be very happy to hear what you think in regards to these questions below, whether you have maybe any different thoughts. But these are some of the questions that are very common. So let's get right into it. Question number 1 is why cold exposure? So why should you get into this in the first place? Well, there are a huge amount of benefits to cold exposure, from boosting your immune system to helping you lose weight and weight management to boosting your focus and your energy. And it's that part that I got into it initially. I mean, I'm always looking for things that will boost my health, but boosting my focus and my energy and just the feeling you get afterwards, particularly when you do particularly cold water, is incredible. And that is the reason why I got into it. And because of this, I did a video a few months ago on the instant benefits of cold exposure, as well as some of the long-term benefits of cold exposure that I'll link at the end of this video if you want to know more about that and you want maybe some more motivation in regards to that. Question number 2 is how to start. Now, the first thing I'll say is just get started, but make it realistic. Don't try and go in super cold water straight away for a huge amount of time. Make it really easy for you. So I would suggest stick no lower than 15 degrees Celsius. That's equivalent of 60 degrees Fahrenheit. If you make it too cold, you firstly increase the risk. If you've not done this before, you're not going to know exactly how you're going to respond to it. Now, if you're healthy and particularly if you're young, there shouldn't normally be an issue with it. But making sure you're not too cold, you don't start too cold will certainly help with this. And don't aim to stay in there for a huge amount of time. You have to remember that you can't expect to do what somebody that's been doing this for a number of years and for you to do that when you've not done it before. So I would suggest start above 15 degrees Celsius and maybe don't do it for more than a few minutes and just see how you feel afterwards. And then from there, if you're feeling good, then just slowly reduce the temperature and you can increase the time and you can play around with those variables. Now, the way I got started, and really the only way I could get started with this, because I really struggled with cold exposure, was with cold showers. So I would start with a hot shower, and at the end of the shower, I would very slowly reduce the temperature. I mean, I did it quite slow until I could pretty much get to the point of getting to full cold water from the shower. And then after a few days, I could then get into a cold shower straight away. So that really works for me. And I would suggest if you're struggling to get in, particularly if you're struggling to get into an ice bath, then start with a shower. Because then from there, I think it was about a few weeks after that, maybe even less, I was able to get into a cold bath. And now I did start this in the summer. This does make it easier. Now, that's not to say you can't do it in the winter. You could always just add a bit of hot water to your bath if you need to. But this summer was good because it meant that the water was actually going to be at its warmest. I think I actually started around 18 degrees Celsius. And then as the winter came about, then slowly the water started to get colder and colder. And then as we got to the autumn, I bought an ice bath outside, and then that just got colder and colder, because if the ice bath is outside, it's always going to be much colder than your bath or shower inside. Question number 3, how cold does the water need to be? Now, this very much depends. A lot of the research had been done on water that was 15 degrees Celsius or lower. So this is why I think people tend to aim to do about 15 or lower. Now, if you go much higher than this, it's going to feel fairly warm and you're not going to get much of the benefit. So I think the colder it is, the more benefits you're likely to get. However, I think there is a point, although I'm not exactly sure, and I'm not even sure research is really that certain at where that point is. But as you pass that, I would think that the benefits will start to diminish. So don't feel that you have to get to 1 or 2 degree water to really get these benefits. You can get a lot of benefits even at 15 degrees. But as I mentioned earlier, don't start too cold. Gradually work it down from around 15 degrees Celsius and work your way down just as cold as you like. I've experienced water around 2 degrees and I've experienced water at 18 degrees. I would say both of those ends aren't that ideal. 2 degrees was just quite painful after about 2 minutes, and I couldn't spend more than 2 minutes in it. And 18 degrees, I could spend 11 minutes, and it was more the boredom as the reason why I got out. So it's a bit too warm. I would say for me, optimal is about 8 or 9 degrees, because you can stay there quite comfortably for about 4 or 5 minutes. But you'll find out what is the most optimal temperature is for you. You just have to play around with it. Question number 4, how often and how long should you spend in it? Now, Dr. Susanna seemed to find through her research the optimal amount of time, which is a time I know a lot of people now aim for, is 11 minutes per week. So the total amount of cold exposure in 1 week, 11 minutes she found to be quite optimal. It's not to say that less than 11 minutes you won't get benefits. You will, just won't be quite as much. It's also not to say that above this you won't get benefits. You will, but she suggests that above 11 minutes the benefits tend to diminish. So what I mean by that is, just because you're getting double, so let's say you got 22 minutes in a week, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get double the benefits. You may get a bit more benefit, but it won't necessarily be double. So if you want to get your biggest bang for your buck, around 11 minutes collectively in a week is a good amount. But it's also very realistic. That's the amazing thing about it, because you only then have to do 3 or 4 minutes each time for about 3 or 4 times per week. And this is around what I tend to do. I only do it 3 or 4 times a week, so you don't have to do it every day. I tend to do it when I'm not working in the morning, and I'll aim to spend about 3 or 4 minutes, particularly now because it's winter, because the water's very cold. And so then at the end of the week, I'm usually around that 11-minute mark. But as I said before, if you're just getting started, don't worry about this. You can work your way upwards. Even if you did a few minutes in a week, just start there. Just getting started is the important thing. And then over time, you can just gradually work your way up just as high as you like. You can make it as challenging as you like. Question number 5. What's the difference between cold shower and cold plunge? So going into an ice bath or just your bath at home. There isn't really a lot of research telling us the difference between these two, but here are my thoughts. I started with the shower because it was so much easier, and I think the reason why is because you're not fully immersing yourself. You're really only covering a part of your body at one time, and I think that makes it a bit easier, and therefore I would think that it's going to mean you get slightly less benefit, but it all depends on the other variables, how long you're spending in there, how cold that water is. So it's not to say you won't get benefit, you absolutely will. You for sure can get a lot of benefit from the shower, but I think that the gold standard is going to be ice bath, from fully immersing yourself. And actually I think a lot of the research has been done with those immersed up to the neck. So I would suggest, if you've not done this before, start in the shower, but you work your way up to ice bath ideally, or just in your bath. However, if you don't work your way up to that, it's actually not a big deal. You're still going to get a good benefit. And what I tend to do on the days that I don't go into an ice bath, I will do 30 seconds of a cold shower at the end of my normal shower. And there has been research showing that there has been benefits even from 30 seconds of a cold shower. Question number 6 is, how should I warm up after getting out of the ice bath? The first thing here I would say is to get yourself dry and clothed and in a warm environment as quickly as you can. What you don't want to do is go into super cold water, be wet and cold outside in minus weather, shivering, and not actually warm yourself up from that point, because that can be dangerous. So do get yourself dry and warm. And it has been suggested that if you naturally warm up, so allow your body to shiver, obviously have clothes on and be in a warm environment, but naturally warm up as opposed to going into a hot shower, it's been suggested you get more benefits because you're forcing your body to warm itself up. This is actually one of the things that is going to help build up your brown fat, because brown fat is one of the biggest benefits actually to cold exposure. The brown fat is what helps you keep warm. This is the type of fat that will warm you up, and it's been associated with massive health benefits, not even just within regards to warming you up. But this is also another reason why, if you've been doing it a year or two, you're going to have more resilience, because you physically have more beneficial brown fat to keep you warm in colder water. If you've not done this before, you're going to have very little, and this is why you have to be more careful at the beginning. So I would suggest allow yourself to warm up naturally. Now, what I tend to do, because when I get out of the ice bath, I actually want to combine it with the shower. I don't want to have to dry myself and then wet myself again. So what I tend to do is go into the shower, but I have it between cold to a lukewarm. So it's slightly above what the ice bath was, so I don't freeze to death, but not warm enough to warm me up too much, and I'm also in there quite quickly. Now, question number 7, I see this question quite a lot, and it's, should I work out? So if I'm going to go to the gym or do any kind of workout, should I do it before or after the ice bath? The answer to this is it depends. Depends on what you're trying to achieve. If you're trying to gain muscle, and that is your primary aim of going to the gym, then you're going to want to do the training after taking an ice bath. And the reason why is because if you have an ice bath after training, it's been shown that it can reduce your muscle gains by around 10 to 20%. So it isn't massive, and for this reason, I actually don't worry about it, because for me, it fits into my routine better to do the ice bath afterwards. But the advantage of doing an ice bath after your training is that it helps with your recovery. It can help reduce soreness and reduce your inflammation. So if you're looking to train and recover quickly, you're much better having the ice bath afterwards as a recovery process. But if you're looking to gain muscle, then you're better to have the ice bath first and then train. And actually, having the ice bath first has been shown to boost levels of cortisol and help boost therefore your training. So you can actually find that you may have a better training session by doing the ice bath first. So I would suggest play around with both and just consider what your goals are. Question number 8, what time of the day is the best to do cold exposure? So when you go to bed, your body temperature lowers, and that helps you to sleep. And then when you wake up, your body temperature has to increase, and that helps you to be awake. Now, contrary to what you may think, ice bath will actually warm you up. And the reason why is because as you go into extreme cold water, your body has a thermostat. And so it's going to fire on all the cylinders to warm you up. And so what happens is that your body temperature will lower initially, and then it will increase above the normal range, and so you'll end up actually warming yourself up. So the net effect is you'll be warmer. And so for this reason, and this is also what Andrew Huberman suggests, is that take an ice bath more towards the early part of the day rather than just before bed. It's possible that an ice bath before bed, because it's going to warm you up, can actually affect your sleep. Now again, you may want to play around with this, and it's not to say that you shouldn't do it before bed. It's not necessarily an issue, but if you have the choice, it's going to be better effects to do it early on in the day. Question number 9 is, do I need to submerge my head? I would say that, well, firstly, I would say I don't. And there's two reasons for this. The first one is you don't have much brown fat in your head, it's mostly in your body. And so therefore I don't think that you're going to get much more of a benefit from immersing your head. But the other reason is because immersing your head is going to mean you're going to get colder much quicker. And if that means you're not going to spend as much time in the ice bath, I actually think overall you're not going to get as much of a benefit. So for this reason, I don't do it. It's also not the most pleasant thing, particularly if it's super cold. So I much rather submerge up to around my neck and stay there a little bit longer than immerse my head. They're my thoughts on that one. I don't think there's a huge amount of research on that one though. Question number 10, penultimate question, is what ice bath should I buy? I would suggest if you're starting out, you've not done this before, don't buy one yet. Start with either a shower or a bath, play around with those two if you have them at home. And then you can decide how serious are you on this, because you've got two types of ice baths you can buy. You can buy a cheap one, 100, 150 quid, whatever that is in dollars, or in the States will be fairly similar. This one means you're not investing too much financially. So if you do it for a month and then you give up, you haven't lost as much. But also it's not too permanent in your garden, so it can be packed away very easily. Now, if you are serious, like me, I went to get a wooden one that you actually build up in the garden, and that is quite permanent. If I wanted to get rid of this, it would actually be quite difficult because it's too big just to pick up and too heavy to pick up and fit through my house or through the door. So I would actually have to disassemble it, and that takes quite a while. But it's also much more of a financial commitment. This was worth about £1,200. Now, if you're looking for a really nice ice bath, this is, I think, the gold standard. If you're in the UK, I got this one from KeiCo Wellness. I'll put a link in the description, but I can highly recommend them. A phenomenal ice bath. It's an authentic wooden type of wood bath, and I don't need anything better than what I've got here. It's really nice. It's nice and spacious. So if you want one and you're serious and you're in the UK, then KeiCo Wellness I can absolutely recommend, so check them out below. Now, final question, question 11 is, are there any risks? Now, I can't say there aren't any risks. It all depends on you. If you're healthy and you're young, chances are you're going to be okay, provided you don't start off too extreme. And this is why, again, I'll say it again, don't start too cold and don't stay for too long at one time, and just gradually increase that challenge over time as your body starts to acclimatize. If you are unhealthy, or if you've got any conditions, or maybe you're older, you just have to be aware that your body may not be quite as resilient if you're not used to this. So you may just want to be extra cautious, and you're really not sure, speak to your doctor, speak to someone that is an expert in this area, or speak to someone that is managing your condition to see what their thoughts are. You do have to be careful with this. It is a challenge to your body. This is why it provides you benefits. In the same way that challenging your body in the gym will give you benefits because you're making your body stronger, same way with cold exposure. But for this reason, if you go overboard or above your limit, then you can actually not get the benefits and actually cause yourself some issues. So they are the best I can answer those questions. Feel free to put any comments below, any further questions. I'll be more than happy to answer them. Again, if you want a really nice ice bath, I'll put the link to KeiCo Wellness below in this video. And as I mentioned earlier, if you want to know more about the benefits of cold exposure, particularly the instant benefits, but as well as the long-term ones, then check out my video here. I think you'll find it very interesting, and this will certainly help with your motivation to get you started. I'll see you on this one or on my next one, so make sure you're subscribed to see my next one, and I'll see you over there. Thanks for watching.